Hi there, this is Kosuke. Welcome to my channel and also welcome to Master Film Study. It is a method of practice to learn cinematography by recreating the scene in 3D and 2D. The main purpose is not necessarily to become a great 3D or 2D artist, but to analyze the masterpiece and study what makes the scene look like great imagery. And you are here along with me to observe the process, how I achieve the shot. And however, I'm still learning and your comments and critiques are always welcome. Today we are taking a look at a scene from Dune, directed by Denis Villeneuve, who is also known for Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. Currently, this is available both on cinema and streaming services. Highly recommend if you haven't watched it. So let's take a look. Okay, disclaimer alert. This is not a tutorial, step-by-step tutorial. This is a more like a time lapse, and I'm just voiceovering it. So voiceovering whatever comes up to my mind. So yeah, it's not really beginner friendly, but I hope you can just enjoy the process of like making the scene from scratch. So this scene is technically one of the earliest scene in the movie. When this desert is kind of exploited by this one of the houses. So there's like four houses, and there is this thing called spice in the desert that has kind of like significant energy, and everybody's craving for it. So it's a scene that like this family is basically exploiting the spice of this area. So this shot to me is like really powerful and very impactful. So yeah, when I saw this scene, like like you can see the scale of this fleet and this base. It's pretty. Yeah, I think it's pretty dynamic shot. So I'm like, yeah, maybe I should make this scene. So what I liked about this movie is like it's one of the movies that it's full of VFX shot. By the way, this movie is primarily done. VFX are done by DNEG, supervised by Paul Lambert. He also did, I think, First Man as well. To me, this is one of the films that every single VFX shots are pretty much 100% executed really nicely. So a lot of times with big budget movie, there are thousands of VFX shots that a lot of studios are taking care of, and then some things are outsourced, and then it's just a mess at the end of it. So the quality control is very difficult. But this movie was beautiful. Every single shot was really art directed and like a painting. It's very, very beautiful. Obviously, this is CZ background, but I'm pretty much sure he had a practical reference on set, um, and try to mimic the real as much as you can. It's interesting, like, because this shot, I chose this shot partially. Because it's simple. It's funny to say this, but like compared to the last video that I made, which is I recreated the scene from Minari, which is the interior scene with like a bunch of furnitures and little props in that, and also it had like multiple light sources. This shot, um, in contrast, basically it's an outdoor shot with one key light, which is skylight, and so right now I'm sculpting here. Um, so I don't know how to call this. Like, it's not a tank. What is this? It's this machine. Um, so this scene basically is just this machine like all over the place. If you make one and scatter, um, and then like few props, which is like the building and the container on the ground, which I already modeled, and pretty much it. So it's technically it's very simple, yet it's very impactful and powerful. So yeah, I think it's really it's one of the shots that like looks very intricate, but it's actually not that intricate. It's really simple yet very powerful. I know I'm repeating the same stuff, but like there are plenty of shots like that. This is one of them. So yeah, sorry. Meanwhile, I'm rambling. I'm already done with basic layout, which I use FSpy to analyze the scene. Um, Basically, just to match the camera, to take the camera from it, and then model the basic container on the ground, and I just duplicate it with alley and screen left building. Those are super simple modeling. And then right now I'm taking a sculpting approach for this one. Probably you could have done with just hard surface modeling, but again, I'm not a modeler. I've never properly learned the modeling. I'm a self-taught 3D artist when it comes to 3D. So for me, like I prefer like very intuitive approach like sculpting. Or if my skill is not sufficient enough, like I'm gonna just like we call it pixel fudget, like in the post in 2D, because at the end of the day, all the movie are 2D. Yeah, it's not VR or game. Like whatever you do, however, how no matter how much you do on 3D space, those things gonna just end up on the screen as a 2D pixel. So all the 3D artists are yes, they're 3D, but they're just doing it for 2D, if that makes sense. So I like the idea of like doing as efficient as you can, with the idea of like you gonna just end up seeing it in 2D pixel. One of the key aspects is being efficient. For example, here I'm just basically do everything for 2D image, which honestly I could have done just painting everything, but for me just like scatter them in 3D is easier, and also I don't have to worry about topology or UV unwrapping or like procedural modeling, because it's just a one specific shot that I'm not gonna use it anymore. It's not a sequence, and is there any mistake, I'm gonna just fix in 2D. That's essentially efficient for my approach. Yeah, unless you're 3D artist for game engine and VR as well, which I gave up the idea like long time ago. I can't do everything, so sometimes it's better to let go of stuff. So yeah, I did the basic sculpting with decently high geo, and I'm start doing a lot of kit bash into this kind of mechanical parts inside of it. So I heard in this world of Dune, it's not like high tech. It's high tech supposed to be because it's like in the future. So they have technology, but seems like they abolish all the AI or those advanced technology, because obviously those things took was harmful for human species. So like they gave up those ideas and went back to analog. So if you watch the movie, like you're gonna see a lot of seeing that the cockpit of there's a like airplane and stuff, a super analog. So same thing here, like those greebles are more like a steampunk ish like gadget. So I used the kitbush preset from Creative Shrimp, which is, I'm not sure if it's free or not. I think I got it when I did their hard surface modeling class, which I highly recommend, and it comes with it. So yeah, so I just basically copy and paste those scribble stuff um, here. And then right now I'm baking the high poly geometry into the low poly, which where I sculpt it, because I know the fact that I'm going to duplicate this guy um, dozens of times. So if I have, even though those are instances, if I have like millions of polygons, that's gonna probably crash my computer. So I wanted to make it as less as I can. Yeah. So you see, like you can see my modeling skills not that great. Just extruding in and out. It's not really detailed enough, but it's fine. I'm gonna just paint it over later. So I started placing the machinery into the scene. So I used geometry node to duplicate these guys, which you could have totally used alley modifier or maybe point instances. But I think geometry node will be the future of Blender or any other software, like not geometry node, but like a procedural approach. It's gonna be the future of 3D software. So I think it's nice to start to get your hands wet onto these fields. Though I'm still learning, I'm far from mastering it, and I'm pretty much sure there's a way. Um, so I noticed those machines in the background are kinda in the reference. They're kinda looking at the camera slightly, like it's not like they're not pointing 100% straight. I'm not sure, but like that's what I thought. So if I wanted to procedurally, like I don't know, try to make some like attribute, maybe camera attribute or whatever, to influence the rotation of those duplicated models to control the farther out you go, it kind of looking towards the camera. Like I think you can even have those control, but I'm not that advanced yet. So those are the things that I'm looking into. Seems like Blender version 3, they changed the architecture of geometry node. So yeah, those things would be definitely possible. So yeah, right now here I'm trying to like finesse that location of those models. It took me forever. Yeah, those greebles are not 100% correct, of course, because I couldn't find 100% matching kit bash for this guy. Those greebles in the face of this machine, I didn't copy 100%, of course. Probably you could have, but that would take forever. That would be awesome, but A, I didn't have enough time, and B, when it comes to this kind of steampunky detail, unless it has a specific meaning, of course there is meaning, there is a direction behind it. Human eyes just, I think when it comes to those kind of like compound details, like human tend to perceive them just the details, just like greebles. So I don't think you have to match it 100% as long as you can show the detail in there. That's how I approach this way. So roughly texturing all the structure, all the object that I have here, like I roughly texture them and shade it with noise. When you use noise texture, if you just mix noise with another noise and vector restore, that you can get different pattern of noise. It's really fun to experiment with. So yeah, I think one of the good aspect of doing this master film study is, yeah, maybe it's nice and it's really meaningful when you are recreating some masterpiece. But I think that studying process starts even before that, because I spent a lot of time looking for a right image for this, right reference to replicate. Um, so I ended up watching the movie again and again to look for the right frame. Um, which is funny, like I ended up using the trailer shot, because trailer is always the goodness, like, cream and crops of like the top notch of a good shot. So like probably, yeah, you're gonna end up with using the trailer shot. But um choosing the right image, like looking for references, or like hearing the backstory of this movie, or like, there are some podcasts about interview about director and then VFX supervisors, and you start learning those. I probably wouldn't listen to those things if I were not doing this stuff. So this is a good motivation for me to studying, not only just the tools, but also um, the deeper understanding of it too, if that makes sense. Because like I ended up having probably like 25 or 20 candidate of reference to recreate. All of them are pretty good, because this is the film with like really art directed, because each one of them a VFX shot was full CG shot, so they are art directed, so they're pretty good. Everything's good, so it's very hard to choose. And but I go back and forth the movie, and then like going back to the Windows folder, and make the thumbnail smaller to see. Um, Even with a smaller icon, is there a contrast? Is there a shape that reads from the very far distance? Because a lot of times you get caught up with details with big screens, but sometimes it's very important to like go back, or like make it smaller to see it from far distance. And good image can be read from just simple shapes. For example, here it's just like, if you think about it, there are not much color variation. It's just pretty monochromatic. But even with small icon, you can kind of see the result, the visual of it, because there's a depth, and then there's a strong shape of each fundamental pieces in this image. There are a few other shots like that, but this one stood out the most, especially the scene like sand dunes or desert. Things get very flat and make it it's kind of hard to have the depths in the scene, but I think this one was depicting really nicely. And also I thought it's easier to replicate too, so that's also a nice thing. So by looking for the references, you start to think, oh yeah, how can I recreate this one, how can I recreate this one? Oh, probably this one's gonna take too long. This one was one of them. Like, yeah, probably it's not gonna be too difficult, too easy. It's gonna be a good balance, and also looks better. And when it comes to like when you're gonna not only create your own imagery, maybe it's important to find like the good balance of like not too overwhelming, but also like really impactful, with not super heavy amount of effort, if that makes sense. Sorry, I ramble too much. So what I did here was basically I the same thing I did before. I rendered the image from Blender, and then wrote them into Nuke. So since color matching in 3D space is not gonna be, even with Photoshop, it's not gonna be 100% correct. But nuke is designed for color matching, and I use nuke for daily basis as well. So for me, it's easier to just AV reference and my image, and then kind of compare the true color. So here I go back and forth like, oh yeah, maybe there's this, it's too green, too blue. Imagine to just tweak that few pixel, like few dozen pixel in Blender. That's gonna be nightmare. So it's better to do in 2D. And also in Nuke, like there's a gamma and gain view. I don't know, viewport gamma viewport gain controller, which in Photoshop you have to create the adjustment layer to control everything. But there's one in viewport by default, so that's really nice too. So now I'm doing I match the color in Nuke, and now I'm doing the painting over. So here I noticed there's a huge hole beneath the tank. So I just filled up into it's a sneaky trick. It's not looking the best, but it's fine. Basically small tweaks. I created the depths haze effect in Nuke with using Z depths and also position paths that I created, so that you have like height map and also the depth map to combine those alpha to create the haze. But also here in Photoshop, I'm just adding a little bit of like dust or something like that with brush. And the foreground character was just hand painted because I was lazy. So yeah, and doing a few tweaks here and there. Some broken render fixing paint. There wasn't much 2D paint over fix this time, but I think it really depends on the project. Like sometimes you do like 70% 3D, 30% paint over, or maybe like 20% 3D, 80% 2D. That's totally depends on the artist and your workflow and also the context as well. But this time, like I think did majority in 3D. So yeah, there you have it. Thank you for watching and staying with me. Hope this is meaningful. And yeah, just let me know how you thought about it and like critiques, and then your comments also welcome. Thank you for commenting me on the previous video as well. That was really inspiring and I was so happy about it. That was it this time. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't done it. See you in the next video.